Welcome back. It's season 4 of Authentically Peculiar with Marcia. I'm elated for the guests that we will have coming in and speaking with us. Right now, America is in a high state of toxicity, abuse, racism, and so much more. I can't even find all of the adjectives. But here at Authentically Peculiar, our goal is going to be to help you pace yourself through this process, work through your trauma, work through what you believe in that you need to live your authentic self, and then be your authentic self. So stay tuned for many, many more episodes of Authentically Peculiar with Marcia. Welcome back. I am so elated to sit before you in this first episode of season 4 of Authentically Peculiar with Marcia. Right now, our world has been turned over and upside down with so much toxicity, so much fragility, so much hatred and racism and prejudice that has infiltrated the skies and the environment of America. I recognize that it's so very easy to be consumed with anxiety and depression and to be overwhelmed when feeling like you don't have control over your life. I also recognize that while we are fighting externally against forces that we have limited control with, there are also internal fights that we struggle with as well. And part of those internal strikes or struggles that we are facing is trauma. It's trauma based, it's trauma related, it is not knowing who you are, it is responding to situations or circumstances that's outside of your control or that you hadn't identified the basis of what your behavioral response is. So that's what I'm here to talk to you about today. Not all the stuff that's going on in America, because America is going to do what America is going to do. But in order for you to navigate the winds of what's happening in America, it's going to be vitally important for you to check in with your mental wellness, your physical wellness, your spiritual wellness, and your financial wellness. All of those things are going to be at the highest height. It's going to be attacks in every facet, and you have to be prepared. So, why not start with inside of you? Today, we're going to discuss is what you're feeling reality or residue? Oftentimes, when I'm talking with my clients, I have to ask them what you're feeling right now or what you're responding to. Is it really right now, or is it the memory of things that you've experienced in the past that left a pain marker for you to respond? Is it a situation where you are failing to really honor your truth and you're just holding on to the anger and the pain and the frustration of it all? Well, what I want to begin to do is get you to give yourself permission to tap into where am I in this moment? What I will share with you is when we are responsive to situations, we are responding to the memory of what those situations made us feel like. Yes, the situations are happening right now, but how are we responding to it right now if we never experienced it? Good question. Well, here's the reality. Most of the things that we respond to, especially that causes a trigger, causes anxiety, causes frustration, or even feelings of being overwhelmed, are usually associated with some traumatic situation that impact our brain. Now, let me say this. Trauma does not have to be blunt force. It doesn't have to be situations where you had some kind of physical attack on your body or on your personal space. It doesn't have to be a thing where you were in a tragic accident or anything of that nature. Trauma can be anything that has disrupted a norm for you. For example, trauma could be as simple as remembering what it feels like to be hungry, going to bed without appropriate things to eat. Trauma could be hiding in a closet because you hear a lot of arguing. Trauma could be not feeling loved, feeling rejected, feeling abandoned, not feeling like you have any value or worth. Trauma could be any of those things that can disrupt what is supposed to be normal in your life. When you recognize that, for example, my relationship with money has not always been the best. I grew up in situations where there was a lot of lack. And when I say lack, it wasn't a destitute of lack. I just saw my mother working 2 and 3 jobs to make sure that we always had a roof over our head, clothes over our back, fresh fruit to eat, food to eat, and to participate in some extracurricular activities. But I saw the struggle and the pain in her face. I saw the struggle and the pain of her experiences. Her hard work and diligence to not feel impoverished began for her as a sharecropper's daughter. And so that carried on in her need to make sure that she provided. Well, my negative relationship with money came from not knowing how to handle money, watching that robbing Peter to Paul process, becoming a single mother, still not having a good foundation with money handling, and robbing Peter to pay Paul, trying to make up for where folks didn't show up and do what they needed to do. But I had to decide with myself, am I operating in my real reality or is it residue? My real reality, I made enough money and I make enough money to never have to live from paycheck to paycheck. I make enough money, used efficiently and effectively, I can have a life of luxury. However, I had to recognize that the residue of what was still hanging around as a child was driving my overspending. It was driving my inability to say no. It was driving my need to have something new or whatever it is, or that feeling of I can get whatever I want to. I'm not suffering. But the suffering was still there. How was the suffering still there? It was still there because even though I wasn't reaching out asking people to help me do this or do that, I was putting myself at a stress point trying to make up for the lack of things I didn't have as a child and abusing the money that was entrusted with me because of my gifts, because of what I'm called to do. I had to make a decision if I was going to live in residue or if I was going to live in reality. So I had to start doing some self check ins with Marcia. Hey, what are you spending that money for? Is it absolutely something that you need right now? Now, I am not recovered fully from bad money management. I'm still working on that because I got grandbabies, and if they ask me for something, very seldomly will I say no. So I'm still working on that aspect of it, but the Peter to Paul aspect, I don't allow that to dictate how I make my decisions. I no longer try to prove to others that I'm able to do things, that I can afford to live a certain way. Why? Because in the end, are any of them going to show up to help pay a bill? Probably not. So, residue of reality. I want you to ask yourself this question. What do I need to check in with to determine if my behavioral responses are residue or reality? If you have been hurt and devastated or disappointed in relationships and you're seeing someone else or you're married to someone else and you have not resolved those things that are left unhealed, you're going to keep reliving that process. So let me say it this way: we keep living those things that we have not resolved. We keep living those things that we haven't resolved. Why do we keep living those things? A lot of times people don't like to confront whatever their pain is. They will say things like, man, that wasn't nothing. He ain't really hurt me. Yeah, I was a little disappointed. He didn't really hurt me. I was disappointed. But your subconscious and your body has kept the tab. It keeps a score. It keeps a score on the unhealed parts of you. And thus for you keep reliving it. And then you keep responding. Say, for example, one of my touchy points, and y'all know I don't throw other people's business out there, but I would throw Marcia's business out there. One of my touchy points is I have issues being ignored. And it was because I was a little girl that was oftentimes pushed away, even as a teen and as an adult and as a seasoned adult. There have been times where people have pushed away from me, have been silenced without me understanding why they were silent. And I would be fighting for my life, trying to make things work, trying to understand some things. But it wasn't the right now silence that was really driving my behavior. It was my unresolved, connected emotion to being ignored as a young person and not understanding why I was being ignored. It was my reliving of situations, feeling like I need to tell you that I'm important. Well, what I had to begin doing is recognizing that people are in whatever spaces they need to be in. Wherever their space is, that's on them. I had to choose what being in relationship with Marcia needed to look like. And it didn't matter if it was parental relationships, sibling relationship, relationships with my children, my grandchildren, friends, family, significant other, all of those things. I had to choose what I was going to define as a relationship for me. And in making that choice, here's where people get things wrong. I had to express what my expectations were. Oftentimes, I will ask a client, what is it that they're expecting in a relationship or from a relationship? And they will often say, well, I need this and this and this. And it's like, who did you tell? Well, they should know. Well, here's a tip. There are no magic balls to what relationships should look like, need to look like, or have to look like. You have to be able to tell people what your expectation is on how they're going to present in your life. If you're not willing to tell them, that means you're willing to take whatever they're dishing out, whatever they decided for themselves your value is. And then you roll into anger, disappointment, abandonment, and rejection, and you can't figure out why you're so angry with that person when all they did was say hello. Well, their hello in the moment was a mockery to you because you had not dealt with the unresolved issues in your life, nor had you shared with anyone the importance of, I need you to treat me like this, and I'm going to counter with this. I know recently I had a conversation with someone and I shared, listen, I can handle a lot of things. Demeaning and degrading talking down to me is not something that I've overcome yet. And it's something that I am working on. But I'm asking you to reduce the need to address me in those situations, or I'm going to reduce our interaction. And the person became upset, and it's okay for them to be upset because they have a right to feel whatever they're going to feel. But I also have a right to express how I want to be treated in the times and the ways and with whom I am interacting with. Subsequently, that has led to little to no communication, and I'm fine with that. And the reason why I'm fine with it is because it's to me, it's obvious that you knew that it was bothersome for me, but not enough to save the connection. When you share with people what you need and how you need them to present in your life, and they abandon or get quiet, um, you have to wonder, where was your respect for me? What is that all about? But also in that wondering, you have to check in with yourself to determine, what else do I need to heal from so that it is no longer bothersome to a manner that I have a behavioral or emotional response, but more of a directed response. I'm sorry, I can't take that behavior from you. When you are at that point where I can't take that directed behavior from you and they walk away, you've already addressed the healing, because it's not a loud screaming, yelling, cursing, getting back, petty, all of that kind of stuff. It's simply, I won't be able to take that behavior. And it's okay. And it's like, just push it on through. However, if you have not gotten to a place where you can relive everything that you need to do in the reality of now, if the person that you're dealing with is not present or part of the original hurt, you have to ask yourself, one, what am I feeling? What am I holding on to? And why am I holding on to it? How am I putting myself in a position to where I am not able to move forward? Why am I getting angry? Because when anger attaches itself, and anger is a secondary emotion, when it attaches itself, it usually attaches somewhere in your head or in your digestive tract, where your stomach gets upset or you get a headache, and it boils up until it just kind of spits out of your mouth, it regurgitates out of your mouth. That is where you have to actually go back into the healing. What has led you to that place of regurgitation? What has led you to that place of shaking and being so angry that you want to punch somebody, that you want to slap somebody and you want to curse them out and all that kind of stuff? Here's the key. When you become that enraged in the reality or the right now, it's the residue that's driving you, and it's the unconfronted residue. It is that part of residue that you have not given yourself permission to heal from. It's that part of your existence where you have not honored who you are to be able to say, hey, this is how things are. This is what things need to look like. And this is how we're moving forward. Okay? Remember, you owe you to be in your truth. Your truth is authentic living. Now, let's talk a little bit about the reality. When you think about the reality of certain situations, you have to wonder, is what I'm feeling the truth about whatever the situation is? Why am I feeling this now? What has brought up a response for me? When you're thinking about things from a realistic perspective, you have to begin to ask yourself, who am I in this moment? Am I still connected to my past pain? Am I still connected to my inability to function? Am I still associated with something that I don't know who I am? Am I still calling me mean? Am I still calling me unable to work with? You know, we talk bad to ourselves until we reach that point of healing. What have you been saying bad to yourself? What do you need to check in with yourself with? How do you need to honor you in the process of all the things that you're doing in your life? Who are you to you? Are you residue or are you reality? In your presence, reality is working hard to live in your authentic self, being able to make the necessary adjustments, understanding that I don't have to live in my past because my past is simply an extension of the foundation that I needed to be my best self. Does that mean the past didn't hurt? Oh, it hurt. Didn't feel good at all whatsoever. But in the midst of it, you learned how to develop some different skills from the situations of your past, right? Did you? Did you learn how to cope with situations where you weren't always accepted in the in group? Did you learn how to trust and depend on you? But did you also learn that disappointment can come frequently if you don't change your mind, if you don't change your heart or your perception about things? What is it about you that's still connected to your past pain that you're not willing to let go? Is it forgiveness or unforgiveness? Here's the thing about that. For all those in your past that has caused you hurt or harm or disruption of your norm, they've gone on about their business. And I'm certainly not saying that what you experienced is not valid because it definitely is. But the more you hang on to it, unprocessed, the more you keep reliving it, the more you keep renewing the strength of what that past pain is, and the more you hang on to the person that hurt you. When you recognize the value of not holding on to the person that hurt you, you can subsequently change how you're going to allow the feelings of that pain to come up. Most people often heard me tell the story about how as a kid I felt rejected and like I didn't belong in the family, and I sat down and I had a conversation with my mother. So every now and then, if I feel that tinge of rejection or ignoring and things of that nature, I have to check in with myself. Where's this coming from? What are you actually feeling in this moment? Why are you feeling this in this moment? And then I go on the inside of me and have a talk with baby girl. Baby girl is little Marcia, the sometimes unhealed parts that tend to come up. And I have a talk with her because I think it's vital to still give my inner child a voice, to let her know that it's safe to have feelings, but it's safer to have healing. It's safe to have feelings, but it's safer to have healing. When you give yourself that permission to heal, you will find that you honor yourself regardless of situation or circumstances. See, one thing that I've learned is that we have a tendency to hold on to things because it's become familiar with who we are, but that doesn't mean that things are good for you. That doesn't mean that you need to keep holding on to those things. That doesn't mean that you need to um, not love yourself enough to let go. Is it residue or is it reality? That is your question. That is the charge that I'm giving to you to run out and get involved in with your inner self, to have that conversation with your inner self, identify the things that you need to heal from, open up the door so that you can communicate how you want to be treated. Start with how you want to treat yourself. Start with no longer demeaning you with your own tongue. Start with loving yourself. Well, how do I love myself? See the value in who you are. Speak to the value of who you are to yourself. Whisper words of affirmation, of love and togetherness and joy for yourself. Humble yourself with you. See you, not your trauma. Your trauma is simply an extension of the foundation of who you are. You know how we have all those labels? For me, my labels are I'm a mom, I'm a therapist, I'm a grandmom, I'm a podcast host and author and all those things. Those are simply just labels. They are not authentically Marcia. They're a portion of who I am. My authentic nature self is one of wisdom and resilience, one who has been called and appointed to positions to help others see and believe in themselves. That's my authentic position. And in understanding that, it gives me the right, the honor, and the privilege to be true to all of who I am. So ask yourself, is it residue or is it reality? If it's residue, you have some more healing to do. If it's reality, you have some more checking to do. You have some assessing to do. Then you have to ask yourself, am I being authentic with me? You got your marching orders. I know in this crazy world that we're in right now, it's like some more marching orders. Absolutely, because these marching orders are going to help you get to your absolute best self in all that you do. So is it residue? Is it reality? Are you being authentic? That is ultimately the goal, is to live in your authentic space, to be able to be your best self. So until the next episode, thank you for joining me at Authentically Peculiar with Marcia. I am your host, and I'm elated to have you here. Go ahead and tap into marciablaine.com. Sign up for the weekly blog so that you can be your absolute best self and honor all the things that you do. All right? Head over there. If you hadn't gotten the newest release, Tell the Past to Go to Hell, go to marciablaine.com and grab your copy now. All right? Take good care of yourself. We'll see you on the next episode of Authentically Peculiar with Marcia.